A wealthy Paris merchant walked into the street holding a revolver and calmly told police, "I have shot a burglar." But 10 days later, a servant girl claimed the dead man was never a burglar at all. This strange story appeared in an 1887 Sunday newspaper, and while some details are difficult to fully verify today, the mystery itself is fascinating. So in this video, we are going back in time, back to the narrow streets of Paris, back to a cold January night in 1874. Paris, January 5th, 1874. The Rue du Fouer was one of the oldest streets in the city, narrow, ancient, crowded with memories. The newspaper described it as a place filled with strange history, old buildings, crooked architecture, and secrets buried in the past. At number 117 lived a wealthy silk merchant named Jean-Jacques Gaspard and his wife. Shortly after 1 o'clock in the morning, a police sergeant patrolling the quiet street was approached by a half-dressed gentleman carrying a revolver. The man appeared calm, not panicked, not hysterical, only cold and direct. "I have shot a burglar." The officer followed him inside the residence. The lower floor was dark, but upstairs, voices could already be heard. The sleeping chamber was brightly lit. Then they entered the wife's room, and there, lying beside the doorway to her boudoir, was the body of a dead man. Blood covered the floor. Madame Gaspard remained on the bed with the covers pulled over her face, as though she could not bear to look. The husband pointed toward the corpse and said, "I shot him as he was about to enter that room." Police immediately believed they understood what had happened. A midnight intruder, a wealthy home, a failed robbery, and a homeowner protecting his wife. But investigators still needed details, so Monsieur Gaspard explained the events himself. He claimed he had returned home late that evening and gone to sleep without disturbing his wife. Hours later, he awoke to the sound of someone turning the knob of his bedroom door. He kept his eyes nearly closed, pretended to remain asleep, and watched. A man entered quietly, carrying his shoes in one hand and his coat in the other, careful not to make noise. The intruder approached the bed, peered down into Gaspard's face, then slowly moved toward Madame's room. According to Gaspard, that was when he realized the burglar intended to rob the boudoir, where valuables and jewels were kept. So he reached for his revolver, followed the intruder, and fired. The man collapsed instantly. The story sounded convincing, especially after police inspected the kitchen. One window had been broken. Paper had reportedly been placed against the glass before it was smashed, a trick burglars sometimes use to reduce noise. Outside, footprints marked the snow. Even the dead man's shoe reportedly matched the tracks. Servants confirmed hearing the gunshot. Nothing more. By morning, newspapers were already praising Monsieur Gaspard. One report declared that his quick actions had saved both himself and his charming Madame Gaspard. The dead man appeared to be nothing more than a failed criminal. The case should have ended there, but it did not. 10 days later, everything changed. A young waiting maid named Marie Rehan appeared before the prefect of police. She had recently been dismissed from the Gaspard household, and she claimed she had something terrible to reveal. At first, the magistrate reportedly seemed confused. What could a servant possibly know that would matter now? Then Marie spoke words that transformed the entire investigation. "Monsieur Gaspard is a murderer. Not a victim, not a hero, a murderer." Marie explained that some weeks earlier, while Monsieur Gaspard was away, she had slept in Madame's room to keep her company. During the night, Madame began talking in her sleep. She spoke a name, André, again and again. The frightened maid listened as Madame muttered strange words about love, hatred, and murder. "Poor André. Why did he so cruelly murder you? I hate him." Those words stayed with Marie, and the next morning she confronted her mistress. What Madame Gaspard revealed next unraveled the entire burglary story. Years before her marriage, Madame had loved a poor young man named André Minart. But her father had forced her to marry the wealthy Monsieur Gaspard instead. Then, in January of 1874, Andre suddenly reappeared in Paris. Secret letters followed, hidden meetings, and finally, a plan. Madame reportedly instructed Andre to come to the house on the night of January 5th, while her husband was supposed to be away. To avoid being seen, she secretly left the kitchen window unlocked. Andre entered quietly, with his shoes removed to avoid noise, exactly as Gaspard himself had described. But according to Marie, Andre was no burglar. He was an invited guest, a lover. And then came the most shocking accusation of all. Marie claimed the lovers had only just reunited inside Madame's room when Monsieur Gaspard suddenly appeared at the doorway with a revolver in his hand. He fired. Andre collapsed near the boudoir door, dead. The maid's statement shattered the official story. Police arrested both Monsieur and Madame Gaspard. Confronted with the accusations, Madame confessed. The burglar story had been false. There had been no robbery, no midnight thief searching for jewels. According to the confession, after shooting Andre, Monsieur Gaspard invented the burglary story to hide the scandal. He reportedly rearranged the scene himself. He broke the kitchen window, created the appearance of forced entry, then calmly walked into the street to summon police. And all the while, the dead man remained upstairs beside Madame's room. The newspapers described the revelation as astonishing. The heroic husband had become a jealous killer. But even then, the case took another strange turn. Monsieur Gaspard admitted the shooting, yet he insisted he deserved mercy. He argued that Andre had dishonored his home, that he acted in rage, that any husband might have done the same. And the court partly agreed. Instead of execution, or life imprisonment, Monsieur Gaspard received only 3 years in prison. 3 years for killing a man inside his own home. As for the maid, Marie Rihan eventually married the fiancé she spoke of during the investigation, and according to the newspaper, they lived happily afterward amid the endless mysteries of Paris. But one question still lingers. If the servant girl had remained silent, would the case of the Rue du Fouard have gone down in history as nothing more than a burglar shot in the night? And how many other simple newspaper crimes were hiding something far darker beneath the surface? That is what makes these old newspaper mysteries so fascinating. Some were unquestionably based on real events. Others may have been embellished by the newspapers that printed them. And some leave us wondering how much happened exactly as it was written, and how much may have been shaped for the entertainment of Sunday readers. Thank you for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What part of this case do you find the strangest? Was it the husband's carefully staged burglary story? The maid's shocking confession? Or the surprisingly lenient sentence handed down by the court? If you enjoy forgotten crimes, historical true crimes, strange historical mysteries, and stories pulled directly from old newspapers, please consider subscribing to this channel. There are many more stories waiting to be uncovered, and many of them only become stranger with time.